I, 30F, never thought I'd be in a marriage where something as simple as taking a photo could unravel into a deep, painful revelation about my relationship. But here I am, 4 years married, with a beautiful baby and a husband, 33M, who outright refuses to take pictures of me. To clarify, I'm not someone who is obsessed with social media or taking selfies. I barely post on Instagram, and most of my camera roll consists of pictures of my baby, candid moments, and memories I want to cherish. But I've come to realize that while I take hundreds of pictures of my husband and child together, my presence in these captured memories is practically non-existent. This issue didn't just start with the baby. Before our child was born, my husband always seemed reluctant to take photos of me. If I asked, he would roll his eyes, sigh heavily, and take one single picture, never offering to take more, never making sure I liked it. I could feel his annoyance radiating from him every time I asked, so over time I just stopped asking. But after our child was born, the weight of this issue settled in like an anchor tied to my chest. I wanted to be in pictures with my baby, to look back and remember these fleeting moments. So I started asking again. Hey, can you get a picture of us? And the answer? Flat out refusal. Sometimes he'd just say no. Other times, he'd take one half-hearted shot, deliberately catching me off guard, never showing it to me, never offering to retake it. If I asked for another, he'd snap, "It's fine. You look fine." At first, I tried to justify it. Maybe he just wasn't into photography. Maybe he didn't understand why this was important to me. So I sat him down and calmly explained how mothers often don't have many pictures with their children because they're always the ones behind the camera. I told him how much it would mean to me to have those moments preserved. His response? A half-hearted nod, a muttered, "Okay, sure," and then nothing changed. One day, I broke down. I had spent the afternoon taking pictures of him and our baby-sweet, affectionate shots that I knew he'd love. Later, I asked, "Can you take a picture of me and the baby?" He groaned, grabbed the phone, and barely aimed before clicking the button. I checked the picture. It was awful blurry, off-center, and I looked half asleep. I laughed bitterly and said, "Can you take another? Maybe one where I don't look like I just got hit by a truck?" He snapped. "Jesus, why do you care so much? It's just a picture." And that's when it hit me. It wasn't just a picture. It was proof that I existed in this family, proof that I was here, that I loved my child, that I was part of these beautiful moments. And for some reason, my husband was determined to erase me from them. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the weight of this realization pressing down on me. I tried to rationalize his behavior. Maybe he just wasn't thoughtful. Maybe he really didn't see the importance. But then, another thought crept in. What if it wasn't about the pictures at all? What if this was about something deeper? The next day, I did something I hadn't done before. I went through his phone. I know, it's a breach of privacy, but I had this gnawing feeling that wouldn't let go, and what I found shattered me. There were pictures, so many pictures, but not of me, not of our baby. There were screenshots of Instagram models, saved images of exes, even a few candid pictures of female coworkers. But nothing, absolutely nothing of me. I was a ghost in my own husband's digital world. I felt sick. My hands shook as I put his phone down. I tried to convince myself that this didn't mean anything, that maybe he just wasn't the sentimental type. But how could he have the thought to save all these other pictures and yet refuse to take a single decent one of me? That night, I confronted him. "Why don't you ever take pictures of me?" His face twisted in irritation. I never thought I'd be writing a post like this, but here I am. Buckle up, because this story takes turns I never saw coming. For context, I'm 39, and yes, I'm still a virgin. It wasn't exactly a conscious decision at first, but life, shyness, and a string of missed opportunities left me here. I've dated casually before, but every time things seemed to be heading in that direction, I panicked, found an excuse, and withdrew. I convinced myself it wasn't a big deal, that I had other things to focus on. But then I met him. We've been dating for about 5 months now. He's charming, patient, and never pressured me for anything. It wasn't until recently that the topic of intimacy even came up in a serious way. He asked if I wanted to spend the weekend at his cabin, just the two of us. That's when it hit me I had to tell him. The anxiety started immediately. Would he laugh? Would he think I was a freak? Would he break up with me on the spot? I went back and forth, considering lying or playing it off as some kind of moral stance, but in the end, I decided I had to be honest. I just didn't expect his reaction. We were having dinner when I finally blurted it out, my hands shaking around my wine glass. "I have to tell you something," I started, and then it just spilled out. "I've never done this before, with anyone." He blinked, then he smirked, then he laughed. Not the reaction I was hoping for. I felt my stomach drop. I started reaching for my bag, ready to bolt, but then he grabbed my hand. No, I'm not laughing at you," he said quickly. I didn't see that coming." And then, out of nowhere, he admitted he had a secret too. Apparently, his last serious relationship ended because of infidelity. And not just the usual kind, his ex-wife had a whole second life he never knew about. A fake business, a fake work schedule, even a fake group of friends. She had manipulated him for years, and when it all came crashing down, he swore he'd never be put in a vulnerable position like that again. "So yeah," he said, running a hand through his hair, "I've got my own baggage." This changed everything. Here I was thinking my inexperience would make me unworthy in his eyes, while he had his own wounds, his own fears about trust and connection. We talked for hours that night. He didn't dump me. He didn't judge me. He just wanted to understand me. But that wasn't even the biggest twist. A week later, we were out for a walk when a woman stormed up to us, his ex-wife. I had never seen her before, but from the look on his face, I knew who she was. "I see you move on quick," she sneered, looking me up and down. "Tell me, did he tell you everything?" Now, my boyfriend looked genuinely panicked. My heart was racing because what else wasn't he telling me? And then she pulled out her phone and shoved it in my face. It was a picture of him taken last week. Meeting another woman at a cafe, laughing with her, holding her hand. I felt my stomach twist. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. My boyfriend looked at me, then at his ex. And then he did something that shattered everything. He smirked. And that's when I realized I was the fool in his game. I don't even know how to process everything that's happened since. I confronted him on the spot, demanding answers. He started with excuses. "It's not what it looks like. I can explain. She's just a friend." But the ex-wife wouldn't let him escape so easily. "She's your lawyer, isn't she?" she spat. "The one trying to make sure I get nothing in the divorce. Tell her the truth." And just like that, the truth came pouring out. He had been married this whole time. Not separated, not divorcing, married. The ex-wife wasn't an ex at all. They had been living in the same house until 3 weeks ago. He had lied about their relationship being over, lied about his past, and was now seeing me and meeting with a lawyer to try and screw her over financially. I felt sick, used. Last week, I hit an insane online jackpot, $25,000. I wasn't gambling recklessly or anything, just using my personal fun money. My wife, 32F, and I, 34M, have always had an agreement. We split our finances, except for shared expenses like rent, bills, and groceries. Whatever's left after that, we do our own thing. Her money is her money, my money is my money. So when I saw the notification that I won big, I was hyped. I didn't think about saving or investing at first, I just wanted to celebrate. And what better way than by spoiling my wife? I took her to this insane high-end steakhouse we'd always talked about, but never been to. The kind of place where the waiter spends 5 minutes describing how the cows were emotionally supported before being turned into Wagyu. Bill came out to around $350 and I was happy to drop it. Next, I went shopping for her. My wife's been obsessing over this designer bag for months but never pulled the trigger, so I got it for her. I also grabbed her some jewelry, nothing crazy, but nice pieces I knew she liked. The total? $1,200. I thought I was killing the husband game. Next day, she comes up to me, super casual, and drops this bomb. "So when do I get my half?" At first, I laughed because I thought she was joking. Like, we had a great night. I treated her, and now she's making a little joke about the money, right? Nope, she was dead serious. She starts saying how marriage means we share everything and that I owe her 50% of the winnings. I reminded her that this came from my personal separate account, which we both agreed was for personal splurges. She didn't gamble, didn't risk a cent, and I had already spent a chunk of it on her. Apparently, that didn't matter. She went on a full rant about how it's the principle and how it's unfair that I get all this extra money while she gets nothing. At this point, I started getting pissed. I said, "I literally just spent over $1,500 on you in less than 24 hours. I thought that was a nice thing to do." Her response? "That's not the same as getting my fair share." I stared at her, waiting for a punchline, waiting for the part where she'd say, "Just kidding, babe, thanks for the gifts." But it never came. She was genuinely angry. When I refused to hand over $12,500, she lost it. First came the silent treatment classic. Then the passive-aggressive comments. Things like, "Guess some people only care about themselves." "Must be nice to have a secret stash while your wife gets nothing." "Wow, so much for being a team." Then she started calling her mom and her sister, telling them how I was hoarding money and refusing to share what's rightfully hers. Rightfully hers? By that night, she was so cold to me, I felt like I was living with a roommate who hated my guts. I tried talking to her, but she kept saying I betrayed her by keeping my winnings to myself. So this morning I woke up and thought, screw it. I returned everything I bought her. The bag? Gone. The jewelry? Back to the store. The dinner? Well, I couldn't exactly return that, but I sure as hell stopped feeling good about it. When she noticed, she lost her mind. "Wow, so you're punishing me now? I can't believe how petty you are. I thought we were partners." I told her point blank, "You said I didn't give you anything, so now I actually didn't." By the afternoon, her mom called me. Apparently, my wife told her I stole from her. Stole. Her mom went off about how a good husband would have immediately split the money, how it's about respect, how I'm being selfish. I asked if my wife ever mentioned the $1,500 in gifts I bought her. Silence. Then her mom says, "That doesn't count. She wanted her share, not your choices." I laughed out loud and hung up, but then a weird thought hit me. My wife is really pressed about this money, like way more than I expected. So I did something I probably should have done earlier. I checked her finances. And guess what? My wife is $20,000 in credit card debt. I was shocked. So buckle up, because I just found out something that has me questioning everything about my marriage of 20 years. This is long, but I need to get it out. Background: my husband and I have been together for over 2 decades. We have kids, a house, and what I thought was a solid, if sometimes bumpy, life together. There's always been one major issue: his drinking. He drinks too much, too often, and when he does, he turns into a completely different person, angry, paranoid, and verbally aggressive. I've tolerated a lot over the years, but now I feel like I've hit my breaking point. The vacation. For March break, we took the kids to an all-inclusive resort in the Bahamas. Before we left, I sat him down and told him that I was genuinely worried about his drinking. I just wanted a peaceful trip. He assured me he'd keep it under control. To my surprise, the trip was mostly great. The kids had a blast. I even let loose a bit. One night I drank too much, but no harm done, and my husband was relatively well-behaved at least. I thought so at the time. The bombshell. Fast forward 3 weeks later to last night. My husband had been drinking again, and at some point, he dropped the most insane confession I have ever heard in my life. He had paid one of the resort staff members $250 to spy on me. I thought he was joking, but Nohei was dead serious. He slurred out that he hasn't trusted me in a long time and needed proof that I wasn't doing anything behind his back. This man, my husband, Pennsylvania ID a stranger to follow me around the resort and report back to him. I asked him what exactly he expected to find, and his response? I don't know, but now I do. I have never, not once, cheated on him, ever. I have never even flirted with anyone since we got married. Yet he was so convinced I was up to something that he thought this was a rational step to take. I was livid. Not only had he completely violated my trust, but he spent $250 of OUR money on this nonsense. The fallout. I stormed off to the guest room because there was no way I was sleeping next to him. This morning I demanded to know everything. Who did he pay? What did they tell him? Why didn't he just talk to me if he had concerns? His response was even more unsettling. I needed to know what you do when I'm not looking. Excuse me, what kind of dystopian, paranoid nonsense is that? I asked him if I had ever given him a reason not to trust me, and he just said, people change. I wanted to be sure. But here's where it gets even worse. The twist I didn't see coming. After that conversation, I did what any sane person would do. I started digging. If he was willing to go this far, what else had he done? I checked our bank transactions. Sure enough, there was a $250 atmospheres withdrawal at the resort. But that wasn't all. There were 3 more withdrawals of similar amounts. I felt sick. When I confronted him about the other charges, at first he denied knowing anything about them, but then he got flustered and said, I was making sure I had options. Options. After more arguing and a lot of dodging on his part, he finally confessed. He had actually paid multiple resort staff members to keep an eye on me in case one person wasn't enough. That's when I realized he had been completely consumed by paranoia the entire trip. All those little moments where he seemed distant, he was waiting. Waiting for some made-up betrayal that was never going to happen. Now I don't know what to do. This isn't just about the spying. This is about control. This is about the fact that my husband doesn't trust me, not because I did something wrong, but because he's convinced himself I must be guilty of something. I don't know if I can move past this. My gut is telling me this is a huge red flag. I feel betrayed in a way I can't even explain. He stole my peace of mind. I'm furious, I'm heartbroken, and I don't know where to go from here. So, Reddit, what the hell do I do now?